Massive Penguins updates as Mike Sullivan offers insight on players trending in opposite directions. We have an update on the Jesse Puljujarvi situation, and Drew O'Connor did something that he hadn't done since 2021. Welcome to Penguins Digest. My name is Remington Kuhn. First and foremost, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. 91% of you are not yet subscribed to the channel, so press that sub button for the latest news, rumors, and updates surrounding your Pittsburgh Penguins. First, we have to talk about the Jesse Puljujarvi situation. That is something we have not yet discussed here on Penguins Digest. Jesse Puljujarvi was placed on waivers just a few days ago by the Pittsburgh Penguins. We do have some updates on that situation. Before we get into it, it's important to note that Jesse Puljujarvi really didn't have a place in the Pittsburgh Penguins lineup. The lineup was rolling out pretty much the same every single night. Puljujarvi and Kevin Hayes seemed to be the odd men out. It had been over a month since Jesse Puljujarvi had seen the ice before the Penguins put him on waivers, and they were trying to do him a solid. Now, what I'll tell you next is that Jesse Puljujarvi went unclaimed on waivers, which means he is still a Penguin. He's just in the AHL, meaning he's playing for the Wilkes-Barre Baby Penguins, and the Penguins still own his rights. So they did not lose Jesse Puljujarvi, even though they could have. So let's hear what Mike Sullivan had to say about the entire Jesse Puljujarvi situation. Kyle spoke to him about the process, referring to GM Kyle Dubas. He's been out of the lineup for a little while now, and part of it is just being fair to the player. Jesse is a great kid. He's worked extremely hard to get himself in the position that he's been in. We've chosen to go with the group that we've had here for a little while. We feel like the group that we put in the lineup every night has played extremely well and is deserving of being in the lineup. And the results have followed. But more importantly, it's about being a fair player. So being fair to Jesse Puljujarvi means letting him go. He wasn't really going to play for the Penguins. He didn't have a spot in the lineup like Mike Sullivan just said. The lineup is pretty much the way it's going to be until something crazy needs to be done and crazy shuffling needs to happen. But the forward group that they have been rolling out every single night has been successful, so it makes sense to put Puljujarvi on waivers and see either he goes to another team, gets another shot in the NHL, or he goes down to the AHL where he can get some minutes and continue to develop his game. Because the moments that Jesse Puljujarvi has played in the NHL this year, he has still been a spotty player. He's not yet an impact player for the Penguins, and I'd rather have guys like Drew O'Connor and Cody Glass. I'd rather have a lot of the other guys that we have on this team in the lineup than Puljujarvi at this point in time. So this is the best case scenario for the Penguins, is sending him down to the AHL and still managing to keep him on the roster. As we look at the stats Puljujarvi has put up this season, numbers are going to lie sometimes, and 8 points in 21 games doesn't look all that bad, but Mike Sullivan is ultimately going to make the final decision of who is going in the lineup every single day. And if Sullivan doesn't trust Jesse Puljujarvi as much as he trusts some of the other players in the lineup, then he's not going to get that opportunity to crack into that 12-man rotation and get chances to play. So it really comes down to being fair to the player. He was only playing 11 minutes a game when he did play, and then also being fair to the team and other players in the lineup that deserve to be in the lineup. There's not one forward in that group of 12 right now that doesn't deserve to be there for the Penguins, and that means that Jesse Puljujarvi, unfortunately, is the odd man out. Same can be said about Kevin Hayes. Regardless of the numbers, they're just not getting the opportunity because the door has been closed by a lot of the other players in that lineup being so effective so far this season. So just understand that Jesse Puljujarvi didn't really have a place, and we were tired of having him be a healthy scratch every single game. So giving the former first-round pick another opportunity to play somewhere else, putting him on waivers, and giving other teams an opportunity to claim him is just being fair to Jesse Puljujarvi. And the fact that no other team claimed him means the Penguins still get to give him another crack at it at the AHL, and maybe later in the season, if there's injuries or if other players start performing poorly, Puljujarvi is right there ready to come right back into the lineup for Pittsburgh. A 74-day drought was snapped, and another player that we're just talking about, Drew O'Connor, is the man that did it. He has not had a multi-goal game since 2021. So Drew O'Connor did something that he hasn't done in years, and he broke a goal drought that lasted 74 days. That is one of the longest stretches of Drew O'Connor's career, and now he is back on track. This is huge for the Penguins. He's a very key player, and obviously getting 2 goals is a huge boost for his confidence. Mike Sullivan said something similar. I told him before the game, and as I said after the game we played, and he was referring to the last game the Penguins played leading into the Detroit game, I thought it was the best game he played in a couple of months. If he continues to play like that, he's going to score. So I was happy that he was able to break through. I think it will be a big boost for his confidence. I'm sure it'll be a relief for him. And I was talking about Drew O'Connor last video about how he was right on the edge of breaking through, and that was proof. He broke through in a big way. 2 goals for the Penguins. The lone bright spot in their defeat to the Red Wings on New Year's Eve. Obviously a huge loss for the Penguins, but nevertheless, Drew O'Connor getting on the board twice is huge for his confidence, like Sully said, and also just huge for Drew, because Drew has been right there on the edge, knocking on the door for quite some time, and I've seen his game take steps in the right direction over the course of the last couple weeks, and he finally gets on the score sheet, and in a big way with 2 goals against the Red Wings. So Drew O'Connor bouncing back. And then Drew O'Connor said, yeah, I mean, it's a step in the right direction. It's still 1 game, so it's something to build on. But yeah, I wouldn't say that changes the past 32 games that much. I think it's just something to build on for me and try to keep it going, is what Drew O'Connor had to say about his big night. Heading into 2025, obviously O'Connor is going to be a big player for the Pens. If he can get it going and keep it going and contribute offensively, he's going to be a key role player on that bottom 6. I love Drew O'Connor. He's a great player. Watching him play, he has that tenacity and that grit that you really want out of your players. He's giving 110% every single night, and it just wasn't working out for him. I showed you guys the advanced metric graph. He's one of the most unlucky players on the Penguins. He gives himself those opportunities, and he just doesn't get lucky sometimes. The bounces don't go in Drew's favor. He's putting himself in areas to score, and it just hadn't happened until that last game. I love that he's getting on the score sheet because it could be a sign of things to come for the Pens, and they're going to need Drew O'Connor if they want to make a playoff push. And that brings me to my last point for the day. 2025 March of the Penguins. I'm sorry for being cliche here, but the Penguins are trying to march into 2025 on a high note, and they lost their last game of 2024. So let's just flip that script. Tomorrow, playing the defending champion Florida Panthers. We'll have a preview coming up for you guys, but really, I just want to see this team play the way they have played in the last 10 games. The last 10 games, they've been 5-4-1. Obviously, that's not a great stretch of games. That's not like anything to brag about or anything to write home about, but it's something to be noted because the Penguins weren't playing 500 hockey for most of the season. They got a hot streak going, and then since then, they've played 500 hockey. And if you want to make the playoffs, you really do have to play 500 hockey even when you're at your worst. And then when you have those hot stretches, it brings you above 500. So if they can hover 500 for a while and then just get hot at the right time, this team can make the playoffs. They're 1 point out in the playoff picture right now. If you take a look at the standings, the Maple Leafs, obviously the best team in the Atlantic Division. The Capitals still hanging on to that #1 seed in the Metro. But the Penguins are just 1 point behind Ottawa for that second wild card spot. Obviously, we have our sights set on making one of those top 3 spots in the division, but we have 3 really good teams in our division, so I'm not going to be mad about getting a wild card this year. Let's just get in the playoffs, and then anything can happen. So the Penguins are right on the edge. They've been on the edge. They've been about 1 point out for, I don't know, like at least a couple weeks now from Ottawa, and every time the Penguins win and get back in that number 8 hole, Ottawa wins as well and knocks them right back out, just like they did against Minnesota the last time the Penguins got a win over the Islanders. So we'll see what happens, but right now we just got to like where we're at. We're in striking distance, and that's what matters. So let's march into 2025. The March of the Penguins is going to march us right back into the postseason. So I'm really excited about 2025. I like that this calendar flipped because now the script can flip for this Penguins team. They started off very poorly this season. We had to deal with a lot of bad hockey games to watch, losses that they should not have had, teams that they should have beat. But now we go into a new year. Mike Sullivan is feeling good about this team. He feels good about the lineup that he puts out every single day. They're being rewarded. They're winning big games. They beat the Flyers. They beat the Islanders. Just in the past week, they doubled their wins over the Metropolitan Division for the season. That is a huge step in the right direction. And we talked about Drew O'Connor, the depth of this team, being able to keep Jesse Puljujarvi on the roster. Maybe Rutger McGroarty gets another shot later in the season. You never know. Obviously, our defense is a little bit banged up right now. Hopefully, Kris Letang's okay. He was placed on IR recently. We'll have more updates about that in the future. But for the next game against Florida, probably rolling out the same 6D that we rolled out against the Detroit Red Wings. So let's move on to Florida tomorrow night. In Florida, in Sunrise. I've been there a couple times. It's a beautiful place. Obviously, the Florida Panthers, defending Stanley Cup champions, and the Penguins get to go on vacation, man. They're going down to Florida, but we need a big win to start 2025, and the Florida Panthers are a perfect team. You know, if you want to test yourself against the best teams in the league, look no further than the Florida Panthers, defending Stanley Cup champions. Matthew Tkachuk, our old friend Evan Rodriguez, Alexander Barkov. They got some great players on the Florida Panthers, and it's going to be a real measuring stick game for the Pens to see what they can do against those Cats. So thank you guys for watching this episode of Penguins Digest. We'll see you on the next episode. If you guys haven't already, hit that sub button for Penguins Digest, the sub button down below. I know a lot of you have been subscribing to the channel lately, and we appreciate that greatly, but keep hammering that sub button, and we will keep you updated on everything pertaining to the Pittsburgh Penguins. Once again, my name is Remington Kuhn for Penguins Digest. I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and let's go Pens!